We're going to go through a banded bicep dynamic isometric. So for this exercise, you're going to need a band. This is variable that you can actually play with. So different types of resistance bands will create a different challenge on the exercise. I'm going to demonstrate and start with a red band, which gives me the least resistance. And I recommend if this is the first time doing this exercise, use a light resistance band to begin with. Now it's focused on elbow flexion to begin with, so we want to start in this position. So kind of like that end position of a bicep curl. If we broke it down into zones, imagine that was my zone 1, halfway to opening up the elbow would be zone 2, and then zone 3 would be just shy of a lockout. I would want to be working in all these 3 zones for some period of time. Now the same exercise can be done standing, can be done seated. I am going to demonstrate it in a squat, and I'll explain for a few reasons why. Now in terms of movement variabilities, from the shoulder joint we are able to internally and externally rotate. From the elbow joint, I'm able to rotate supinate, pronate as well. And then from the wrist, I'm also able to move this. So what I want to do with this exercise is challenge my joint in as many places as possible. So as I start to maybe feel a bit of fatigue, I want to move somewhere else to continue sustaining this exercise. It's a 1 rep eccentric basically. So I'm going to demonstrate how I would set up and what my intention is. So I want to get down into a squat. I want to get tension onto this band. So I want to make sure I've got a good complete flexed elbow, not halfway open. So I can use the other hand to assist and close here. I want to assess. Here it feels quite easy. I don't really feel much tension on the band. So I need to step back to a point where I feel the band is starting to make me work to hold this position. And then from here, I'm going to ever so slowly and delicately move into different areas as I feel I'm starting to fatigue. So I can internally rotate the shoulder in combination as well with rotating the elbow in various ways. I can move back towards the external rotation of the shoulder now. Again, I'm moving slow because I may feel vulnerable and weak in certain areas. So as I move, I'm assessing to see how these positions, these new areas I'm going into feel. So I'm starting to fatigue. You see the elbow is starting to open up. This is what we want. One thing you can also think about doing if you don't feel safe with this type of exercise, use the other hand for support. So it's there just in case. Say I'm coming into internal rotation this much and I feel all of a sudden very weak. I can use the other hand to safeguard my shoulder and my elbow. Now as the elbow starts to open up more, the resistance of the band reduces, so I can start to step back to increase that resistance. As I said before, I'm trying to load the shoulder, the bicep, the elbow in many possible ways. So I'm exploring all options I have with these movements I can do with my joints. And I'm fighting to resist the resistance of the band. I try to work in as many areas as possible where I don't feel I'm still fatigued. And as it gets a bit harder, the elbow opens up, I'm losing tension, so I step back a little bit more again. And I just try to keep it going for the time duration that's required, and then I rest. So as I mentioned before, if it's the first time doing this exercise, start with a light resistance band. I attach the band at the bottom of the post because it creates a good line of tension throughout the whole movement, but you can play with different heights. So this could also be done standing from this position, and then I would step back gradually to challenge myself. This will feel a little different because your elbow is starting lower down. Another option, as I mentioned, would be seated, using say a bench or so, something that you are able to actually slide back as you perform this exercise. So I'm here, I get the right amount of tension, I begin the exercise. As I started to fatigue and my elbow was opening up more and I felt the resistance ease off, I can slide back a little bit more.